If you've been trying to fix your body through various self-healing techniques, such as positive thinking, affirmations, self-love, even releasing, and nothing has been getting better, I'm going to tell you exactly why. Coming up. Welcome to the Power of Quiet, the simple way to self-realization. So if you want total control of your mind and you want more happiness and abundance in your life, then you come to the right place. So if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. You're going to love what we show you. And if you're a regular here, you love this method that we practice and you find that it works for you, it makes a difference in your life, then make sure to hit like. And also share some of your gains in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you're experiencing using this method. Now, one of my last videos, a couple of videos ago that I posted here, I shared an experience, a recent one, where I healed a very serious foot injury by releasing only. And what I mean by releasing only, for those of you that aren't familiar with that, is simply, I release all of my negative thoughts and feelings that come up in such a situation, like, when I have this injury, all the fear, all the frustration, all the self-blame and self-criticism that comes up in a situation like that. And using this method, I just let that negativity go. I just let go of all that fear, all the other negative thoughts and feelings. And what's left over after that fear and other stuff is gone is simple clarity and pure love that's already there. Nothing needs to be added, right? No mantra, no affirmations, no reprogramming your thoughts or anything like that, right? What you find just by letting go of the negativity is that underneath all of that, all that critical thinking where you just go on and on and on about what's wrong and worried about this and frustrated with that, that we typically listen to, that goes on in our mind day in and day out. Once that is out of the way, you discover that all that positivity, all that confidence and self-worth that you feel for yourself is already there. You don't need to conjure it up in your mind. It's just there, right? All the confidence where you could feel like you could take on the whole world. It's just naturally who you are. And that type of just positive power that's already within you, that positivity enables you to not only fix your body, but fix anything in your life, because you start to see how powerful you really are and that your body and everything else in your world is more of your own picture than anything else that you are a victim of. And you see that you have the power to really shape your world as you see fit. So that's what the method is all about, and I've been practicing it now for over 20 years, and in over 20 years I've had amazing gains in healing the body, from injuries of broken bones to cavities, and just fixing all that by releasing only without having to have an intervention from a dentist or a doctor or anything like that, being able to just do it all myself. Now, having said that, sometimes when something happens in the body, it's not always so perfect. And sometimes I've had difficulty in fixing things by releasing. I want to share one of those stories also that recently happened just this year, and how I caught it and turned it around and made it all right again. So this all starts back in last December, about 9 months ago. And at that time, my wife, she was pretty dissatisfied with her healthy lifestyle here in the Netherlands, right? With the food that she was eating. She was trying to find good gyms to go to, but she really wasn't satisfied with any of them. And I know why, because I've seen a lot of them. A lot of the gyms that I've seen tend to be like dark, confined, claustrophobic spaces where you're just kind of packed in and they're blasting music at you, and they're all doing all this high intensity cardio stuff. And that sort of stuff isn't for me, and it wasn't for her. And she's like, I don't like these gyms, and I don't like this lifestyle, and it's having an effect on my health, and I'm not feeling so good. So much that I want to go back home. I want to go back to Romania. And I'm going, wait, hold on. Slow down a second. There must be a solution here, right? Let's not make any rash decisions. Let's see if we can find a solution. So I went and I looked around, and I found a fabulous gym. It actually happens to be like a 5-minute walk right outside our front door. And the place is incredible. It's huge. It's open and spacious and bright. The equipment is great. They got everything you could ever want to use. The staff is fantastic. The atmosphere is great. And I took her over there, and she's like, wow, yeah, this is what I'm looking for. So we signed up, and I went ahead and signed up with her because I said, well, I'm going to go with you to motivate you, keep you accountable, keep you company, so that together we'll get both of us into great shape. Now, I haven't had a gym membership since my early 20s. Now, I've always done various athletic and fitness stuff. I've done Tai Chi. I've done a lot of cycling, especially when I was in San Francisco. I did a lot of hill climbing, on those steep hills for great distances, right? And I've even have done like kind of calisthenics, body weight training for periods of time, and even have done kind of light dumbbell training, some basic dumbbells that I've had around the house. But going to the gym, this is a new experience for me. And when we signed up, that also included a series of sessions with a trainer. So I thought, okay, well, I'll take advantage of that. So I started these sessions with a trainer, and I asked him, well, I don't have any particular goals in mind. I'm just here to kind of be here with my wife and so on. But why don't you just show me like a basic bodybuilding, weightlifting routine? That's probably what I'll end up doing here. And over a series of sessions, he just kind of took me around various equipment, machines, and also using free weights. And we came up with a routine that I was doing. And once I got started doing that, see, originally I didn't have any particular goals in mind. It's just, I'm just going to show up and do whatever. But once I got started, I started to think, you know what? I got all this great equipment, and all these other great resources here. I'm going to really take advantage of this. I can really do something with this now. So I started to take it seriously. And before I knew it, I was showing up at least 6 days a week. I'm just showing up all the time. And I'm loving it. I'm loving the experience. I'm loving the bodybuilding, the weight training, because in particular, I really enjoyed the concentration that's involved. You really have to concentrate on what you're doing. And You really have to pay attention to your body, have a high level of body awareness. And to me, it was kind of like Tai Chi in a way, that type of body awareness, where you're really paying attention to everything that's going on and connected, from your toes to your fingertips. But this was different though, because with Tai Chi, you're just kind of pushing air and, that's all well and good. But here, you're really pushing weight and you're pushing your body to its limits each time. So you really have to pay attention to this stuff. So that part I absolutely loved. And I'm just flying through the exercises. And like I said, I'm going 6 days a week at least, sometimes like every single day of the week. And each day I'm just pushing harder. I'm tracking everything that I'm doing. Now, the weights that I'm using, how many sets and reps. And each time I show up again, I'm looking at what I did last time. I'm going, okay, let's go a little bit harder this time. Right? Let's squeeze in a few more reps. Or let's kick up the weight now. And just every time going further and further. And everything's going great. In about December, January, February, in about 3 months' time, I had lost a considerable amount of fat. See, when I showed up, I really wasn't so concerned about my physical shape. I was what you would call, technically, I think, skinny fat, right? I wasn't really fat, but technically I was obese. I was like over 28% body fat, but I just kind of carried it all over my body. So it wasn't really bulging out noticeably so much. I was just heavier, bigger. And over the course of those 3 months, I went from 28% body fat down to 14%, high 14s. And I put on a lot of muscle, and it's growing every day. So I'm like, wow, there's a big change happening, and wow, it's so easy, and I'm loving it. This is the greatest thing. Why didn't I do this sooner in my life? Now, right around the end of February, I ended up overworking my shoulders to the point where I just totally annihilated them. And I didn't even realize it at first. What had happened was I showed up one day and I'm doing, a lot of bench presses and, pushing exercises. And I'm doing an incline press with dumbbells. And I think at that point I was up to about 24 kilos in each hand. And I remember I was leaning back on the bench. It's an inclined bench. Leaning back and I'm getting the dumbbells up in place. And I'm just in the ready position. I could barely get them there. And then at that point, I couldn't even push. I can't even do one rep. I'm like, what's wrong? I just did this a couple of days ago. So I went back and I racked those weights and I picked up some 20 kilo dumbbells and got them into position. And it was painful, but I was able to squeeze out 3 sets with those 20s. I was like, that hurt, but well, I did it. And I went on and did the rest of my exercises. Now, a couple of days later, I came back and I thought, well, I had to do 20s last time. And I was already kind of not too happy about that because up to that point, I was progressing every single day. Now I'm regressing. I'm like, okay, well, let's just do the 20s again. I was able to do those last time. We'll start with that and see if I can get back up to the 24s. So pick up the 20s. And it was like with the 24s. I struggled just to get them into the position to start the exercise. And then I couldn't even get going from there. So I racked those weights, picked up some 16s, and then painfully squeezed out 3 sets of those. Now, after that, I really damaged my shoulders somehow because they were just torn up. Like I said, they were annihilated. And they were hurting so much that I was tossing and turning in bed at night because I'd sleep on one side and like after 5 minutes it would be so sore I had to like move over and roll on the other side, and a couple minutes later that was so sore, and then now I try to lie on my back but then I snore and my wife's poking me to move and I try to roll over, and so I'm tossing and turning all night. And it's just painful and I'm struggling through it. So, of course, in that situation, hey, I'm a releaser. There's something wrong with my body. I'm just going to pull out my releasing tools. I'm going to fix this like I've done so many other times. I'm good at this. So, I try to release, but I end up struggling for about 2 months. And in this time, I'm doing like whatever I can, but I cannot really use my shoulders. And I'm trying to get help from another trainer over there at the gym. And again, I'm trying to release on it, but it's just not getting any better. And I struggled through it for about 2 months. Finally, after that time, it's getting healed up enough to where I could start actually pushing some real weight again. And just as I'm starting to think, okay, now I can start getting back in the saddle, progressing again, I suffered another injury. Somewhere right here in my, what tattooists typically call the elbow ditch, right here, I really strained my tendons to the point where I couldn't do any pulling exercises for my back or do curls or anything like that. It just was a no-go. So it's like, just as soon as these were okay, I had another big roadblock in my elbow there. So I'm struggling through that, and that takes about at least a month for it to get better. And of course, I'm trying to release on that, but that's not really helping so much. I'm just burdened by this ongoing problem, with soreness and unable to really do my exercises. Now, finally, after a month or so, this finally gets better. I can start now getting back into the routine again. And just when things were looking bright again, something else happened. I was doing deadlifts, and as I was lowering the barbell, my lower back popped. Kind of, the lower back kind of has this curve like this. It went boop like that, and like really strained some muscles there, and like now another problem. But here's the thing. Once this third injury happened, then I started to realize this must be my own doing, right? Because just as things are starting to get good, it's like boom, I go right back into the hole again. I started to look at taking responsibility. And this is one of the great things that this method allows you to do. It allows you to take responsibility for everything. It allows you to come from the position of, where am I creating this to happen? Because if you blame outside circumstances or people for bad things that happen to you, then that just leaves you in the position of being a victim. But the simple attitude of taking responsibility for everything, even though logically to the mind that might not make sense. How could this be my doing? It's there's all sorts of reasons, right? It's my age, and being older, the tendons aren't so great, and it's going to take a lot more time and work to build them up, and that's why it happened. So you have all these reasons and excuses that you can blame for the problem, but again, where does that leave you? It leaves you waiting for those external events to correct themselves before things can be better again. It leaves you being a victim instead of being proactive. So now, once I started to realize that, I got proactive. I started to look at, well, where am I causing this? And why isn't the releasing that I've been trying to do these last 3 months, all this time, why hasn't that been working? Again, my responsibility. So once I saw that, I already knew, because I already knew all that time that I was in a pretty negative state during that time. I was pretty unhappy with that whole situation back when it started in February with the shoulders. Because first of all, here I was. I'm doing this new thing that I fell in love with. And every day I'm just getting better and better. I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world, and I'm so good at this. And then all of a sudden I hit a roadblock. And this thing that I love, or was loving to do, I'm not able to do it anymore. And I was very unhappy about that. And I was always also blaming my original trainer. It's like, well, yeah, he didn't show me stuff right, and he did this to me. And I found another trainer over there, and I saw that I was kind of coming from this place of neediness, like, please help me, please fix this thing for me. And I was like desperate, to get in sessions with him and have him help me. And when he wasn't available, I was frustrated and all that stuff. I could see that, and it's like, well, obviously, if all that stuff is going on and I'm unhappy about it and I'm frustrated, I wonder why the releasing isn't working so much. I'm not letting that go. Now, the other thing that I saw, and the reason why I was so desperate to get back in the saddle and start doing it again, was because, like, if you've watched any of my other recent videos, you've probably heard me talk about these photography workshops that I've been doing in Albania. I went there a year ago in 2022, and also I went again this last June. And back in February, when things were just going so great, and I lost all that weight, all the fat, and I'm building muscle, I'm thinking, wow, from December to February, I accomplished this much. By the time June comes and I go to Albania again, I'm going to be a monster, right? And I'm thinking the people that I was there with the previous year, they saw me back when I was pudgy and out of shape and had flappy underarms and all that. They're going to see a massive difference. They're going to be like, whoa, what happened to you? What are you on? And so I'm kind of fantasizing about all this approval I'm going to get when I show up and they're going to see me. And I'm going to be like, "Urgh," right? And that wanting of that approval and was with me that whole time of, okay, well, I'm not able to work out and I'm not able to grow, and I want to get this done quickly so I can get back on track and I can get into this image that I fantasize in is going to happen in June. And for those of you who are familiar with this method and this work, you know that this desire, wanting that approval, wanting that outcome, that state of want is a state of lack. Because basically, and particularly with this situation, see what's going on in the mind when you're wanting something, you're wanting that outcome. And especially when I have a block to that outcome, right? I have this setback. That wanting in the mind is thinking, well, I got to get over this. and get that result. And once I get that result, then I can be happy. But in the meantime, when I have this problem, I'm unhappy. See, that is the flip side of that decision of wanting, is that you're looking for happiness in the future once you achieve something. But in the meantime, what you're really telling yourself is, I cannot be fully happy or feel really good or successful with myself until that happens out there in the future. So what that leaves in your current picture of yourself is one of unhappiness. And that's why, as much as you want something, you're really coming from a place of lack. And this is provable. We'll explore this a little bit later here in this video, so you can see the difference between wanting and having, because they're polar opposites. You can't want and have at the same time, just like you can't stand up and sit down at the same time. They're opposites. So want equals lack, and that's what I was into. I was wanting that approval. I was wanting that fantasy that was going on in my mind. And if I wasn't able to get it, that was really frustrating me. And that's why I was pushing myself and I was trying to release. And coming from that frame of mind, that's why the releasing wasn't working. Because, again, for those of you in the know, you know that the name of the game here is imperturbability. See, you got to get to the place where you're imperturbable, where it really doesn't matter to you one way or another. And to get to imperturbable, you got to address those wants and let go of them. And this is the whole thing that Buddha talked about 2,500 years ago. This is the whole Buddhist method. Because Buddha said that life is suffering. And the cause of suffering is desire, wanting. Therefore, if you want to end suffering in your life, you got to end desire. So, once I saw that and I recognized, this is what I'm doing, then I really got to go to work with real releasing now. So, this was right around the end of May when it finally clicked in, and I released on it, and within a couple of weeks, turned the whole thing around. So just in a couple of weeks, shoulders were great, my elbow ditch was great, my back was great, and I was able to do everything and starting to push real weight again, just like that. And I got enough workouts in. I think I had a couple of weeks where I was like, you know what? I don't want their approval so much, but I'm still going to get to that decision I had to really being in the greatest shape that I could be when I show up again in Albania for the next workshop. So yeah, so it all went great. I showed up. There wasn't a whole bunch of fanfare of like, oh wow, look at you, you're so massive or anything like that. But there was some subtle conversations throughout the trip. It was like, where I was talking to one of the facilitators there, and we were talking about general fitness and so on, and he had mentioned, because we were talking about like photo fitness, because in photography, there's a bit of practice that goes on. It's not something that you just turn on and off. You go out and practice and you get good, and it's just like any skill. It's like if you want to, be a good golfer, you go out and swing the club, and the more you do it, right, the better you are. And the same thing with the camera. So we're kind of talking about that, but then he also brought up about, because we were on some long hikes in the mountains to find some waterfalls and do some shots out there. And on some of these long hikes, he had brought up, this is another aspect of photo fitness, actually being in shape. Like, I remember one of my favorite photographers who's no longer around. His name is Galen Rao. And he had done some amazing nature photography. And I remember reading how he did this iconic shot of a rainbow falling down on the city of Lhasa in Tibet. And he saw the rainbow forming, and he had to run in a very short time, a distance of 2 miles along a trail in order to get to the right position where the rainbow fell right down on top of the city. So that was kind of like that photo fitness, being in shape to get the best shot possible. We were talking about that. And in that conversation, you had mentioned, oh, by the way, I noticed you're in really good shape now compared to last year. So anyway, it all turned out great. And after that, I went and we did the retreat in Romania, and I was working out. I worked out in Bucharest, and by that point, I was really back into progressing again, pushing real weight, and now actually progressing forward from the weights I'd been doing previously. And from then on, it's just been onwards and upwards from there. So that's the whole crux. And if you've been trying to release and practice loving your body so that whatever problem with it will go away, but at the same time, you're holding on to that wanting, and you're holding on to that non-love, that frustration, like, oh, I got to get it done. I got to fix this thing. That's why it doesn't work. You really have to examine yourself, where it is that you're coming from. And you got to be honest with yourself. And like I said, during that period where I was trying to release on it, in the back of my mind, I knew I was frustrated. I knew I was unhappy. I didn't acknowledge it. I wasn't honest with myself until, the third injury happened, and I'm like, come on now, I got to be doing this. And then I started taking it seriously, looking at myself and saying, okay, what am I really willing to do? Am I really willing to look at that want, that desire of mine for that approval, and really let that go and get to the place where even if they don't notice, and even if it turns out that it can never work out again, that I could be just as happy anyway. See, that's the type of imperturbability that we're looking to get to, where it doesn't matter what happens, all right? Even if I have to let go of this whole thing, never work out again, have to abandon it all, can I still be happy? Can I still be positive? Can I still feel successful? Because that's my decision. Unfortunately, most of us, we attribute that to whatever it is that we're doing or what we have, right? My success makes me happy, right? My accomplishments, my toys, the people around me. As long as I have these things, I'm happy. But when we come from that position, we put ourselves in a very precarious place, because all that has to happen is that rug gets pulled out from underneath us, right? That success goes away. That accomplishment, right? It's way in the past, no longer relevant. Or the people, or the toys, they disappear, they go away. And then what's left? See, inevitably, you got to let all this stuff go. People leave in your life. Things break. Things leave. Situations change. And if you're counting on those things to make you happy, you really put yourself in a precarious position. But when you get to realize that that decision to be happy is yours in the first place, it doesn't depend on the external circumstances, then you got it. Right? You got all your happiness, yourself, and nobody and nothing can take that away from you. And that's where you realize, oh, I got all this power. And that power, then you're able to demonstrate and actually create the stuff very easily, all the positive stuff that you want, just like an afterthought, right? There's no struggle, no effort to it. It's the simplest thing. And that's why we call it getting things by releasing only. So let's explore this wanting a little bit. All right, so we can really see that difference between wanting versus having, and that they are really opposites. See, this is something that's really kind of messed up in our thinking because we've been programmed to think this way, that in order to get something, we got to want it first. And we've heard this like even back when we were in gym class, like in middle school or in high school, when they said, all right, you're on the basketball team and you're losing, and the coaches just get in on you. And it's like, you're not winning because you don't want it enough, right? Haven't you heard that before? Right? You're not getting your goals. It's because you don't want it enough. And even like a lot of these success gurus, like Anthony Robbins, what does he say? Right? If you want to be successful, you got to have passion, right? Passion and drive and want and desire. And this stuff makes you crazy. Look at Tony Robbins. He doesn't look happy. He looks like a nervous wreck. Right? So, wanting just leads you to frustration. And wanting also has you holding the wrong thing in mind. Now, let's just go on the basis of what they talk about in the law of attraction. And not just that, but a lot of people point out how everything is your picture. Hold in mind what you want, right? That's why people do vision boards and stuff, right? So you can keep holding in mind having this Lamborghini and big beautiful house and an island and all that stuff, and put it on your refrigerator so you see it every day. And once you see it and you burn that image into your mind, then you're going to create it. And the reason why most people struggle to create using the law of attraction is because it's like trying to override the negativity. Because at the same time, you got all these negative thoughts that are running in your mind like, well, I'm not good enough. I can't do it. That's impossible. It'll never happen. And on and on and on. I don't deserve it. And so on. And see, whatever thoughts are going on, both consciously and subconsciously, whichever ones are way more, like if you got more of these negative thoughts, I can't, it's impossible, and so on, they're going to overpower whatever positive thoughts you try to put in. So trying to program yourself or do affirmations, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get results that way. But what gets you the results is letting go of the negativity, which is the wanting. So, and another thing to be aware of is if the mind is a creative instrument, like if you have a picture of what you want and there is nothing in the way, then that's what you'll get. So if it is just a picture, and the mind deals in pictures, by the way, like if I say to you, don't fall down, what do you get a picture of? Falling down, right? Even though I said don't fall down. You just go right to the picture of the action. Right? Likewise, if I say, don't think of a motorcycle, what do you get a picture of? Right away, you picture some sort of motorcycle. So the mind only deals in pictures. Now, when you're wanting something, say you're wanting $1 million, or you're wanting to fix a body problem, what are you holding in mind when you're wanting something? What's that picture that you have in mind? It's not a picture of having. It's a picture of, I don't have it yet. And I got to figure out, how do I get it? How is it going to happen? What do I have to do? And so on. But the picture is, I don't have it. It's out there somewhere, but not here. So that's what you're holding in mind. That's your picture. And if the mind is a creative instrument and your picture is, I don't have it, it's lacking, then you create lack. So this is something that is provable, it's demonstratable, and it's something that you can experience right now. Now, Think about something that you want. Think about something that you want really bad in your life. Right? Maybe it's $1 million. Or maybe it's to heal a body problem. And take a look at this thing that you're wanting. And by the way, how long have you been wanting it? I bet quite a while. This is something that's been on your mind for years, if not decades. Right? Something, it's like my life's dream. I really want this thing, right? And you're so passionate about it, and you make a whole ego story about this is what I am, this is what I want, this is what I'm all about. But it's been going on and on and on. You've been wanting it, and not getting it. Right? Now, if wanting really was the magic ingredient to having, then all that time you've been wanting it. And chances are, you've been wanting it real bad. You should have had it already. If wanting was the magical key to getting something, like we've been programmed to think. But just take a second and just back off of that wanting a little bit now. And let's just discriminate a little bit. Because if you've been wanting it all this time and not getting it, then maybe that wanting isn't so great. Now, of course, your mind still might be arguing that, well, if I let go of wanting it, then I won't have it. I'll just fall into apathy. I won't do anything, and nothing will ever happen. I gotta hang on to this wanting. Can't let that go. Well, just figure that you've spent your whole life wanting things, not just this thing, but wanting all sorts of things, wanting lots of things. So you know how to want. And if you let go of the want and that doesn't work out for you, you can always go back to wanting, right? So just try it out. Take a look at this thing that you've been really, really wanting. And by the way, who's wanting it? Where'd that want come from? Did somebody come and give you that want, shoved it down your throat, told you, you got to be doing this? Or hasn't it always been your decision to want? It's your decision. You decided a long time ago, I need that thing. I got to have it. That thing is going to make me happy. Once I get that thing, angels are going to sing, birds are going to fly around me. Everything's going to be wonderful. And at the same time, every time you think about not having it, oh, I don't have it. Notice how that feels. It just feels like, oh, what a loser I am. I don't feel so good. I feel incomplete. I'm miserable. And I just wish that thing would happen. Right? And how great is that? And that's what you get from your decision to want. But here's the thing. See, talking about taking responsibility, if it's your decision to want, then you could turn the whole thing around by a decision, a simple decision, to let go of that want. And that's all I had to do is just decide. It's not complicated. Super simple. Could you just decide now to let go of that want a little bit now? And it's an easy decision. You see how miserable you get and so frustrated and beating yourself up because you're not getting it and you feel down on yourself. All right? What's so great about that? So could you let go of the wanting a little bit? And could you let it go a little bit more? And could you let it go a little bit more? See, we're taking it like in little baby steps. Right? Just a small decision, and then a little bit more of that decision, and a little bit more of that decision. Right? So could you let go of wanting that thing a little bit more? And a little bit more. And could you let go of wanting it a little bit more? And a little bit more. And could you let go of wanting it even more? And even more. And could you let go of wanting it even more? And even more. And could you let go of wanting it even more? And could you also decide to be happy despite what's going on, even if you never get it? Could you be happy anyway? And a little bit more. See, again, that's your decision. And could you let go of the wanting? And just be happy with yourself just as you are. And forget what your mind says. Your mind will probably tell you, no, you got to have that thing. Don't give it up. Don't give up your dreams. Don't give up your passions. You're going to do nothing. You're going to be nothing if you don't want anything. Never mind that. Could you just let go of that wanting? And more. And a little bit more. And even more. And again, could you just decide to be just as happy even if you never have that thing? Could you feel just as positive, just as successful, just as powerful? And notice how that feels. Notice what you're experiencing right now. When you let that wanting go, how does that feel? Doesn't it feel lighter? Just like lifting a weight off of yourself. Feel that? And also now take a look at that goal of yours. You know, the $1 million or having a perfect body. And now, see if it's just at least a little bit more possible than it was a few moments ago, back when you were really wanting it. Just notice if it's just a little bit more possible. Doesn't have to make sense to your mind, but you'll just feel it. It's like your intuition, your gut feeling. It's like, no, it's more possible. It's more real and realistic to me now. Just see if you notice a difference in that. So, this is just a very simple exercise. And if you want to go further into this, you could check out some of the other videos or show up at a live class. I'll tell you a little bit about that in a moment. But this is just a taste and a demonstration that shows you when you let go of wanting something, not only do you let go of that negativity that you just carry around with you, it's an unhappiness and a feeling of lack, a feeling of emptiness. As long as you don't have that thing that you want so much, and in your mind you're saying, well, once I get that thing, then I'll be happy. But not now, only then. And that's the most ridiculous decision that you can make for yourself, because you're literally telling yourself to be negative in the now moment. And now is the only thing that matters. What is your consciousness right now? If your consciousness is that of negativity and holding out until that thing will hopefully someday make you happy, it ain't never going to happen. But when you let the wanting go, you don't turn into apathy. You don't lose out in your dreams. They become more real, more possible. And you could start to see that shift in your mind. And you didn't have to tell yourself some affirmation or envision something. It's just natural. When you let the negativity go, what's left over is pure positivity. A pure sense of, I can. And then, as you keep letting that wanting go, that positivity gets so concrete. And that I can turns into total conviction. It's like the whole world can tell you, no, you can't. And you're like, watch me. Right? You get that sort of confidence that's natural to you when you let all that mental negativity go. And that's what all the releasing is about. It's just eliminating all the negativity so you see who you really are. And if you really want to show up and be who you really are, join me for the next 6-week class starting this September. We're going to be working on the body. We're going to do 6 weeks of diving deep into this whole method, because what I show you here on this channel is really just the tip of the iceberg. If you really want to see what this is all about and prove to yourself you can have whatever you want without any effort whatsoever, then join me. I'll put a link to it up here and in the description below. But examine yourself. Be honest with yourself. What are you wanting? And what are you getting out of that wanting? And what are you going to do about it? I'll see you next time.